I am Jessie Ebner, and this is Brie with Signature Properties, Ebner and Associates in Crested Butte, Colorado, and you are listening to We Hold the Keys podcast. And today we thought we've already introduced ourselves, but we thought we'd talk a little bit about our history and how we got into real estate. And I'll start, I guess, if you want.
Yeah. Shoot, go for it.
So I got a degree in equine science in college from Colorado State University. And I had a great job working at a horse breeding farm in Fort Collins. And it was a very labor-intensive job with, we had like 150 babies that we delivered every year, and then we'd
dangerous,
and we would breed the mares and collect the stallions. That'll be a whole nother show talking about collecting stallions.
Talking about shoulder deep.
Yeah, and I just got to the point. I mean, I was making like, I don't know, $5 an hour and working 40 hours a week. No, I was working 60 hours a week at $5 an hour, and it was just a really intense job.
That doesn't pay the bar tab and the rent.
I was in really good shape, but it wasn't paying the bills, and so I actually got to where I hated horses and I hated the job, and I just knew that I couldn't hate the one thing that I loved the most. And
I think we see that in a lot of industries,
yeah,
or like hobby things that people love.
Totally.
And then it becomes work, and then they have to get out of it because they end up losing their passion for it.
Losing the passion. And that's exactly what happened. And I was a crazy horse person for so long. But so we had just bought a house in Fort Collins. We bought our first home. And so I called my realtor, our realtor at the time, and I was like, I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody that's hiring? And she's like, oh, it's really crazy that you just called me, because we just had an opening at our Horsetooth office for a receptionist. And I was like, awesome. So I interviewed for that.
Horsetooth office.
Oh, is Horsetooth?
I know, but
yeah.
like, how ironic.
Ironic, right.
Uh-huh.
That's funny. I never thought about that.
I was like, is she still thinking about horses, or was it the Horsetooth?
No, the road was Horsetooth.
Got it.
And I got that job, and I got to wear nice clothes. And they were like, okay, this job is going to be really intense. 12 phone lines ring at the same time. And I was just like, that's nothing.
After
this is
breeding
great,
horses,
and I'm not getting beat up, and I could wear nice clothes. And so I really loved it. I mean, it was an easy job for me to kind of fall into. And then I was kind of bored with it because it was easy. And I was like, I'm going to quit.
Isn't that funny how sometimes easy is boring?
It is. So I was gonna quit, and Dave was like, why would you quit? You should actually really think about real estate. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I could further my career and actually get my license. And so I went into my managing broker's office, and I said, I think I really want to be in real estate. What do I need to do to, learn more and grow and do better? And she's like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I'm so proud of you for coming to me and talking to me about it. And she moved me almost immediately into a assistant position, where I was the assistant for, they called it pod assistant. So I worked for 15 different agents. And I did all their listing contracts and I would write their purchase contracts and listing contracts, and then they would take them and present them to their clients. And then I did all their marketing and just, typical assistant work. But it was so good for me because I learned the basics from the get-go for working with someone else, and got to learn how top agents, there were some really high-producing agents in that company that I got to learn from. So it was really fun. And then I decided to get my license, and we decided to move to Crested Butte. So I got here, and in 2007, yeah, and the rest is history. So how about you?
Well, no, it's funny you talk about having the experience before you get licensed, because I had worked in the industry for probably 6 or 7 years, I think, before I actually ended up getting a license.
Wow.
And I really think it helps because you actually get like the back end, and it really helps you through real estate school. Because a lot of times in real estate school, you don't actually learn you don't learn how to fill out a contract. No. You don't learn how to work with a client. You learn
you learn how to
legalities,
what meets and bounds are,
right?
Which we never use,
or that grid of all the. Anyway, I teach real estate school too, but that's another day. So same thing. So my mom was a realtor, so I grew up around it. And then when I was 15, they were looking for a weekend receptionist, and I was like, oh, well, I'll work on the weekends, even though I did it through high school, and some of those weekends may have been hungover, but that's okay.
Sorry, Mom.
And my mom had to sign a child labor law thing because I was only 15. So same thing. I did the weekends for probably almost a year, and then ended up talking to the managing broker, and I became her executive assistant and worked all through high school. And then I went to college, got a degree in middle school science education, of all things. Worked at a firm through college as well to kind of help support myself. And then worked in a first grade classroom for 2 years. Came here, and same thing. landed
Amazing.
back in real estate. But what I love about it is I love the real estate. I love being the managing broker because I can integrate my education information. And so I still have the
You're really
teaching
good at it.
portion because I love the teaching part of it. So it was nice to mesh what I really knew with what I love to do. So
You've really found your niche of what you're excelling at, and you're passionate about it. You love it, but it's not like, super intense
no.
sales job like I get to have, which is awesome.
Right.
I love it. But
There's something for everyone.
My dad is a log home builder. He's retired, but I got a lot of my background and knowledge from watching him build houses and getting to be on his job sites every day as a kid and kind of just really understanding how a house is built. It's been so huge for me to have that, just kind of that construction knowledge. Because when we're walking through properties and buyers are like, well, especially here, nobody really understands what in-floor heat is and how it works.
I know. You don't think about the things you just become accustomed to and how different they are. Or air conditioning.
Yeah, totally. I don't know anything about air conditioning.
Which when we moved here,
all I know is we don't have it.
I'm not living somewhere without AC, but when you grow up in Southern Illinois, have to have the AC.
Yeah, so it was good to have that background, and now I still call my dad all the time and ask him construction questions, and it's good to have that resource. And then obviously my brother's in landscaping, so we were like a full package deal of my dad builds it, and my brother landscapes it, and I sell it.
Yeah.
Except my dad's retired, so can't get him to build any houses. But
no more.
Yeah.
Right. I enjoyed growing up with my mom in the industry because I think it's been fun to watch how much it's changed.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, I remember, I think it was bi-weekly, she would get a new MLS book. Remember, they used to have the pastel covers on them.
Yes, that's why they call it a listing agent, because it was a listing book that you put in the property.
And everything was black and white. And, I feel like each listing had like this much space and they put every nitty gritty in that. And my thing was always like, what if you take a listing the day after the book comes out, then technically your listing isn't publicized for another week and a half or so, which I always thought was interesting.
It was crazy. I mean, that was just phasing out when I started at the group. And
And what year was that?
That was in 2003.
I was going to say, I feel like we adopted online. I started working at the firm in 98, and I feel like we were kind of, I think it was like 98, 99 when we went to an online.
I mean, the agents that I was an assistant for still literally had a Rolodex.
Yes, my mom had a Rolodex.
That was their database.
That
was their database of these clients that were in this Rolodex. And it was really funny going from a very high volume market where it was very technology forward for that time. And then coming to Crested Butte, and there was no lock boxes. I mean, we used to have to walk to each office to get the keys for each showing. So if you were showing 20 condos, which at the time you were showing 20 condos because there were
and then you put them on like a carabiner, so you
so then I'd get to the door and I'd be like, I'd have my pockets all shoved full of keys, and I'd be like, is this the one? No, crap, this is And so it was pretty interesting just to go from like super high volume market to a very quiet, small, tiny town,
right?
And how you kind of had to shift. I had to shift the whole everything I learned to a different opinion.
You kind of had to step back too.
Yep.
And I think it's also sometimes the difference of metro versus small town, just kind of the way people move and timing and things are just a little more laid back, because same thing, I had worked in Southern Illinois and then in Nashville. Nashville was the same way. Obviously, I mean, we were outside of Nashville, but it was a metro area, so we had the lock boxes, we had everything electronic. And then when I moved here, and I was like, we don't have lock boxes, we don't like showing time. We had showing time. I think we started that in 2002.
I mean, we just got it here when you brought it, didn't you? Or no,
it was something that Cren integrated, but that was when we moved with them. I think that was like 2017.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
So it is interesting how the gaps.
Yeah, but I think we're getting there, and I feel like Crested Butte's kind of
come to the 21st century.
Thanks to your help. I mean, when you were in charge of the board, you brought in all kinds of new technology that has really helped us advance into the real world.
And technology can be a pain, but when it works, it's so sufficient, and it's time saver. And realtors don't need to spend their time driving around picking up keys. So,
well, I'm excited about our shared background, and I love to try to tell new agents that and you talk to new agents all the time that are just getting into it, but if you can work for another agent first or work in a real estate company as an assistant or something, just to learn the language and learn the verbiage that people use.
Who's earnest?
Yeah, exactly. Who's earnest? Earnest money, Hemingway. So it's a good thing to do. That would be my advice to any new agent, that you can have that opportunity. Or now what's really popular is people are building teams, and so you could join a team
that has
where you have a lead agent and you become a buyer's agent for that team, or potentially just a showing specialist, and then you kind of learn, and they give you leads, and you can kind of grow your business that way.
Right.
It's a much easier way to get into real estate than cold turkey, but
or
cold
you
turkey
ensure
works too.
that the office that you join has
Right.
a managing broker that is their sole purpose.
Exactly.
Is to train new agents and ensure that they're successful and do hand holding, which is what a lot of people need in any new industry. So
We do, and it's intense coming into a market like Crested Butte that's really competitive.
for sure.
And
we
right
have a
now-
lot of realtors and not a ton of population.
We do.
So
Well, you're doing a great job.
well, thanks. You too.
Thanks. All right, tune in for next week. We'll be talking about something else that's really exciting, I'm
Right?
sure.
Something we hold the keys to.
Yeah.